All right, everyone, welcome back into another live edition of the Patriots Beat podcast here on the CLNS Media Network, presented by our wonderful friends over at Prize Picks and Game Time. It's Brian Hines back as always with Alex Barth, and it was a busy one in Patriots world today. Mike Vrabel down there at the league meetings in West Palm Beach, Florida, spoke to reporters for 34 minutes. I think he capped it off as. Said that's the longest we'll ever get to talk.
It was a long one.
So lot to break down. And then, he was on 98.5 Barth Station with Felger. He was on with Florio, and then Elliot Wolf's down there on with Felger, on with Kay Adams. So a lot of information to jump into, just under a month away from the NFL draft now. And we will get right into it, kind of go down all the big things that stood out to us. And the big one really was the biggest hole on the roster still, left tackle. What is going to happen at left tackle? They haven't added there in free agency. Vrabel was asked about it. He pointed to Vidarian Lowe, who's recovering from surgery, which I don't think we knew, and then Caden Wallace, who drafted last year as a right tackle, but they tried to move him over, got hurt during the season, didn't see much of Caden Wallace, so kind of a question mark still, Caden Wallace. And then he talked a little bit about Will Campbell, Armand Membu, top of the draft. They view Will Campbell, despite all these arm measurements, as a tackle. So Barth, just where do you think they're at right now with this left tackle position?
So I'll start with the Caden Wallace stuff first. If you listen to Elliot Wolf talking to Felger about that one, he mentions that, they view Wallace primarily as a right tackle, but they like his athleticism. They like his footwork. To me, when you put all the comments together, and again, it was a lot to follow today because you had Vrabel in 3 places, Wolf in 2 or 3 places, and credit to everybody who was asking the questions. Sometimes when this happens, it becomes very repetitive and it's essentially the same interview 2 or 3 times. I think there were a lot of different pieces of information buried in all of these different availabilities, and we have to kind of put them together. So when you just hear Vrabel's answer, you think Caden Wallace back at left tackle. When you put it together with everything that was said, this was just my thoughts on it, was they want him to be their swing tackle. They want him to be their third tackle. They want him, at least this year, to be able to play on both sides, not necessarily start or be a major factor ideally on either side, but we've talked about this. They don't have anything at left tackle. It's not just not a starter. It's Vidarian Lowe, and that's it. There's no depth either. So they're unless Lowe's going to be the backup, they're going to need a backup at some point too. And you probably want competition for Lowe in that role. So if you tell me they're working Caden Wallace at left tackle because they think he's the answer, alarm bells. If you tell me that they're going to work Caden Wallace at left tackle because they want him to be the backup for both Morgan Moses and whoever they bring in to start on the left side, and he's going to compete with Vidarian Lowe because they don't want to keep 4 tackles on the roster, that makes some sense. I can get on board with that. It's not the most ideal situation, but for everything else they need to do this offseason, Caden Wallace as the swing tackle, sure, I'm good with that. And then I think that was hammered home by the fact that Vrabel gushing about both of the tackles we're expecting to see at the top of this draft, Will Campbell and Armand Membu. And he hit on the red flags for both of them. He mentioned with Membu that, and he downplayed the worries for both. And I know that this has kind of turned into a one versus the other, which it does not need to be, and it shouldn't be. But it's been, would you rather shorter arms versus guy flipping sides? And what Vrabel said was lots of guys that flip sides, which isn't necessarily true. And then he said, yeah, well, you look at Will Campbell playing tackle in the SEC against high-level talent. It is very high-level talent. It's not as high-level talent as the NFL, but it's high-level talent. But, how do you watch him in the SEC and not think that he's a tackle? And then Elliot Wolf, kind of following up on that with Felger, gave a tackle or guard answer. So they think he can play both. But I think the headline there is he thinks he can play tackle. Of course he can play guard. Name me one tackle in the last 20 years. And this is where we get ridiculous with this take. This isn't a Will Campbell thing. We started to hear about Armand Membu at guard. We started to hear about Kelvin Banks at guard. Ariante Ursary at guard.
Everyone's a guard.
Felton at guard. Well, my point, no offense to guards. Tackle's a more difficult position. Name one tackle in the last 10 years, Brian, if you can. Name one tackle in the last 10 years if you can that you looked at and said, yeah, I don't know. He might struggle if he got moved inside. He's definitely a tackle, but I don't know if he's a guard. Does that player exist?
There's got to be one somewhere that's failed.
Maybe because of just sheer height, but that's not a thing.
We just watched 6'8" Mekhi Becton go inside and have a insane good year for the Eagles.
So, and honestly, if you asked me what kind of tackle won't work at guard a year ago, I probably would have given you Mekhi Becton. So
I would have said I was thinking Trent Brown, and then Mekhi Becton does it. So.
Right, exactly. So the point being, there's a difference between there's a tangible reason this guy shouldn't be playing tackle versus I think this guy would be better as a guard. Everybody would be better as a guard, obviously, but somebody has to play tackle. You can't just go inside guard, outside guard, right? You're going to line up with one left guard in front of the other left guard. Like somebody's got to play there. So I don't know, not to pick on the draft community too much, but I feel like sometimes, and again, there are valid concerns. Will Campbell's among them. There are valid concerns for some guys continuing to play tackle, and not everybody can stay out there. Some guys do need to move inside. I don't know that Campbell definitively fits that, but I'm not downplaying that entirely. My point is, it's really easy to couch your take by saying, what do you think of tackle X? Oh, I think he'd be better as a guard, because it's a win-win. Either he moves inside a guard and he is better because most tackles are better at guards, or he stays outside. If he stays outside, he's good. Yeah, but I still think he would have been better inside. Or he's not good. Well, they should have moved him inside, right? So that's a side rant. Anyway, the Patriots, though, clearly view Will Campbell as a potential left tackle. They view Armand Membu as a potential left tackle. Mike Vrabel was asked the question about drafting for need and said, well, hopefully drafting for need and taking the best player available are the same thing. Now, we'll get to Travis Hunter. He also raved about Travis Hunter. He also raved about Tyler Warren. They went down that path. But, I doesn't it kind of feel like unless Travis Hunter falls, they have left tackle pretty squarely circled at 4? I don't feel I've been kind of half serious, the whole Ashton Genty at 4 thing, floating that. I know there's still some Mason Graham people out there, Tyler Warren as well. I think there's, maybe some other players. Abdul Carter would be another one, but I think at this point, that's just not something they're going to have to worry about. It does feel like the flow chart is as simple as Travis Hunter. Yes. If he's not there, Campbell or Membu.
And the door's still open for a trade down, they said. And Wolf said on with Felger that there's been some, how did he word it? Nothing, not
conversations, but no calls.
Yeah,
nothing official.
Not official calls, but there've been some conversations. But that's to the point where you need someone to want to trade up. And who are they trading up for? Are you trading out of an Abdul Carter pick, or is someone want to move up for Shedeur Sanders? You need the second side to make a deal there.
He did a good sell job on Shedeur Sanders with Felger.
Yeah,
so
he likes him. Yeah. What game was that? He said the
Oklahoma State game.
Oklahoma State.
I want to go back and look it up. It's on my list of things to do today.
Yeah, but it does really seem like that flow chart, Travis Hunter, tackle, trade down, maybe in there, in between at some point. But that does seem where things are headed. But just to go back to Caden Wallace in Lowe, something we've talked a lot about with Vidarian Lowe is he struggled mightily in 23 on the right side, right? So can you trust him? I know he got better on the left side last year. You still want to replace him as a starter, but do you trust him as a swing tackle? If Morgan Moses goes down, now we need Vidarian Lowe at right tackle, where that was a disaster last time we saw him. So if Caden Wallace can give you 2 position versatility, then maybe we're moving off of Vidarian Lowe. We have a roster spot to keep another guy on the interior or another wide receiver. We have all these wide receivers. So that is interesting that, we'll see what happens with Caden Wallace there, and if he can handle that kind of swing tackle role. But you mentioned Travis Hunter. That was the other top prospect Vrabel really dove into, and Wolf talked about him on the Kay Adams show. They both kind of felt like in agreement that you want this guy to play both sides on the ball, to maximize what you're getting out of him, but it's best to majority play one spot, right? Something I think most people have kind of laid out, you're full-time one side, and then you're going to sprinkle in on the other side of the ball.
Wolf said major in one, minor in the other. I thought
that's the good way to word it, which I feel like we've been there for a while. Most people in the kind of draft community have been there for a while. And then if he proves that he can handle more and more, then let's put a little bit more on his plate on this side of the ball, and we'll do the best thing for the football team. But I think they really do like Travis Hunter, and if he's there, he would be the pick. But what did you think of their Travis Hunter comments today?
Well, first, before we get to what they said about Hunter, Elliott Wolf in the Kay Adams interview basically said it's going to be up to the coaches if they take him.
Yeah.
So we kind of learned in that interview who maybe really has final say, and he was asked about final say by Felger today and kind of talked around it. It was a good answer. When Felger asked him who submits the card, he literally talked about the guy that handwrites it out. But it sounds like it's Mike Vrabel in charge there. But I do think they're in lockstep on Travis Hunter in that he's going to have a primary position where Vrabel maybe went one step further. Elliott Wolf with Felger, he said he didn't want to say waste. I don't remember what he ended up saying, but like just playing Travis Hunter on one side is not making the most of him, or only playing Travis Hunter on one side is not making the most of what he can do. Vrabel, though, kind of took it a step further, talking about how you maybe have him at one position initially because he's going to need to learn, and this is something we've talked about, going to need to learn the details of one of those positions to take his game where it needs to be at the NFL level. And then once you get comfortable with him there, you start mixing in that other stuff. That's the approach I've seen. I've kind of preached is, and I think it's wide receiver for the Patriots. I think that's clear. Get him where he needs to be as an NFL wide receiver. And then in a year or two, if he's made the progress you want him to make, now you start mixing some of that defensive stuff in. So that's where Vrabel went a step further, wanted to make sure he masters one position before he starts working on another. But I think they're of the same belief that like he's not going to be a full-time two-way player. He's going to have a primary position. And then what you do on the other side, you do on the other side. Like that will kind of come as it comes, as the development at the primary position allows.
Yeah. Yeah. Vrabel said, I pulled up the quote. He says, there has to be a primary focus just to be able to get some of the details that are going to be required at this league. Wolf even said, no shade at Colorado, but it's a little different, playing that much at Colorado compared to, coming to the pros and being in the NFL. So especially if we're assuming it's wide receiver, right? Like he's going to have to learn the little details of route running and the intricacies of this offense. And that's why the ceiling could be so high for him, because he's this good at wide receiver already. And now if you put more of the little details on his plate, throughout the week and being in meeting rooms, because we don't really know how that was split up at Colorado, like that leaves the ceiling so high for Travis Hunter at one position. And then
I think Hunter talked about it, right? That he like mostly did defense. And then his offensive assignment was just kind of, instead of knowing the play calls, they would just tell him what route to run on any given play.
Because there's a lot of like Shador hand signals, just like, they would do quick things on the field. So yeah, I think he did spend most of his time on defense.
But that's especially in the McDaniels offense. Like that's not, they wouldn't be able to operate like that.
No. Yeah, definitely. So Patriots, though, it makes sense that he's mostly playing wide receiver with those needs there. So
I think that's right. If they draft him, I think that's exactly how they should do it.
Definitely. So those were the big two prospects. Or is there anything that stand out to you about Tyler Warren? You mentioned him quick there. Vrabel was kind of joking. Like first he was like, how many tight ends are we going to draft? But then he kind of,
No, he said, bring me all the tight ends.
Yeah. So it was kind of weird flip-flop there. But
I mean, kind of within that, he talked about them being multiple on offense, which I like.
Yeah.
I like that they're gonna be two tight ends. He kind of floated them maybe being two back. So there's another sign that if I remember correctly, there's another sign that the fullback is coming back. I like that they're going to be multiple. I like that they're going to involve tight ends for Drake May. I don't know that they need to do it to the extent where they're using a top pick on Tyler Warren, but we've kind of assumed that, all right, if they take a tight end, it's probably a guy who's next up behind definitely Henry and then maybe Hooper, right? A true developmental player is that third tight end. Are they going to get to a point where maybe not all at once, but they're mixing all three tight ends in? Are there maybe more snaps for a rookie tight end on this team this year than maybe we're giving credit for right now? I don't know. I don't know that it's a definitive yes. It's just something like I've been on the mindset, like I like Mason Taylor, right? I like Mason Taylor. I don't know that I want the Patriots using a pick where you have to take Mason Taylor on a guy that I kind of thought coming in, well, unless there's injuries, how much is he really going to play? At most, he steps in for Hooper as the second tight end. But if they're going to be heavy in 2 tight end, and they're going to maybe rotate him and Hooper and figure out ways where it's maybe, him on the field with Hooper and Henry gets plays off or something, okay, I'm open to it a little more because that pick needs to play. That's ultimately what it comes down to. 4, 38, 69, 77, unless you're drafting a right tackle to take over from Morgan Moses, those guys need to be at least heavy rotational contributors, if not, playing a majority of the time. Is a tight end going to do that? A third tight end going to do that? I feel more convinced today that answer is yes than maybe I did before.
Yeah. Especially just in that room, like if they want more explosiveness, because Hooper and Henry, they're reliable, but they are what they are. They're 30.
Right.
They've never been the most explosive athletic players at that spot. Like they're going to be reliable targets, kind of get what they get. So if they want someone with a little more burst or athleticism, like you could see that. So he said, how many tight ends can we play? And then 3 sentences later, he says, I'm all for playing and acquiring as many tight ends as we can possibly get. So
I took the how many tight ends can we play as like a challenge.
Yeah.
Like how many can we play? 4? Can we play 5? Can we play 6? Like
We're building this whole thing out of guards and tight ends, baby. Let's roll.
That's how I took that answer. Is like, oh, you think I won't play 3 tight ends? I'll play 4. I'll play 5.
Try me.
There was one a couple of years ago. The Patriots had all these like hybrid players, and it was like 06 personnel or something. I figured out because it was when they had AJ Derby, who was a college quarterback, but played tight end, and I forget, they had like a couple other guys. There was a formation I figured out where they had 6 tight ends on the field, and I don't want to say it made sense, but it wasn't like there was a thread hanging on to reality from it. It wasn't totally ludicrous.
Oh man.
There might have been 33, maybe it was 33 personnel.
33.
Something like that. Yeah.
Well, maybe we can come up with some funky new number of formation this year. We'll see what they got.
What was the one we did? Was that with you or with Mike when they first signed Ty Montgomery? Maybe that was with Evan. I might be going way back now. Where it was like
no, that sounds because we were debating whether Montgomery was like a back or
was it like 11 and a half personnel or something?
I think it was something like that.
Yeah,
but who knows? Yeah, maybe if there's a trade down, Tyler Warren. He said he's a wonderful prospect. They met with him at the combine, so maybe Tyler Warren is sneaking into some of these conversations there as well. So those were kind of the left tackle big storyline. Some of the draft players he specifically talked about. So before we talk about some of the players he discussed on the roster currently, I want to tell you guys about our friends over at Prize Picks. The sports season, we know football is over, but the sports are still going on, and it does so on Prize Picks, where you just pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 1,000 times your cash. We got the Final Four next weekend. Basketball playoffs right around the corner with the Celtics. No hockey playoffs in Boston this year, but the rest of the league is still going on, and playoffs starting soon. So you can throw any of those sports in your lineup. Baseball, just take under or less than Rafi Devers, everything at this point, unless he has more than strikeouts because he can't get a hit. We got to get Rafi Devers a torpedo bat or something to stop these strikeouts. So Tatum, Brown, basketball, Pasternak, hockey, Devers, Bregman, Christian Campbell's having a good start to the year. All of those guys, you can get involved in your Prize Picks lineup. So download the app today and use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. All over on Prize Picks. Run your game. All right. Back to Vrabel. Some stuff he talked about players on the roster. One of the bigger updates, Christian Barmore was asked for a health update. The blood clots can be a little complicated, and obviously just Barmore's health first and foremost is the most important thing in this equation. But it was kind of a positive update from Vrabel. Said he was in the building the other day, had good energy with the trainers, and he's expected to participate in the voluntary offseason program, which begins April 7th. Voluntarily. Vrabel kept hammering that word home.
Doesn't want to catch a fine in year 1.
Doesn't want a fine from the league. Everything is voluntarily on April 7th. But it would be a huge boost if Christian Barmore is part of that defense. Obviously, a long way to go. They'll have this plan that he also talked about to, for practice time and everything like that. But it did seem more positive on the Christian Barmore front today from Vrabel.
Yeah, it did. And I'm not going to let's not get out ahead of ourselves here, right? Him maybe taking part in the offseason program is a long way from him being back and getting on the field. But the fact he's gotten to this point after having the setback last year is encouraging. Hopefully they don't rush him. Hopefully they don't, get ahead of themselves. But even just that update, I wasn't expecting that. That was more than I was expecting at this point. So, good for him.
A month ago at the combine, it was really, we don't know, right? Like, he's going to come back start of April, so right around now, and he's going to have that medical update. So I don't know if that was the one they were talking about now, but feels like that's been encouraging. So again, a long way to go. You don't want to just throw him into your projected lineups week one next to Milton Williams, as much as we would all love that, but it does seem like could be trending in the right direction, which is just great for Christian Barmore there. But other guys on the team touched on Stephon Diggs. Elliot Wolf did too on some of his appearances. Anything about Diggs' usage or just, the energy I think Vrabel talked about that he's bringing to the building? Anything you like to hear about what they had to say about Diggs?
I mean, it sounds like they're still it sounds like there's a chance he's going to play in the slot. If he's going to play in the slot and they draft Hunter, I'm just kind of curious what that's going to look like. But I don't think they view him as they kind of left the door open, I guess would be the better way to put it, depending on what happens. Because Vrabel and Wolf both raved about his ability to play three positions. I don't think they are looking at him as this is our X receiver and it's set. I think there's an opportunity. We're going to see them get creative with Stephon Diggs, which, coming off torn ACL, 31 years old, you figure he's maybe lost a little bit, ideally not a ton, but it's unfair to think he'll be, 110% the player he was before he got hurt. So maybe that's how you kind of get him going, especially early on as he's trying to get his feel back. You move him around to give him some different assignments, keep defense's head on a swivel for where he is. That could be a good way to get him going.
Yeah. And a lot of it probably does, if there's another domino to fall in that wide receiver room, like, is it Travis Hunter at 4, or is it like a Jaden Higgins, someone who you project more to be outside the numbers, right? And then you can move Stephon Diggs around the inside. But also in the receiver room, some, I don't want to say praise, but the Jalen Polk, Javon Baker talk from Vrabel, it feels like there's still some belief there in those guys, and that's what we've kind of heard since, from the combine, that there's still some believers of those two in the building. Are you buying that, or where are you at with Polk and Baker now that they are getting this, clean slate, fresh start, new coaching staff? Do you think these guys, could be contributors? Vrabel talked Polk, is rehabbing the shoulder, so he's doing, the work ethic is there. He's doing lower body stuff because he can't do upper body with the shoulder. So he's working hard to get back and get ready. So are you buying maybe some of that belief and hype in these, year 2 receivers now going forward?
I guess I would say what I buy is that they're going to give them a blank slate and that they're not going to be judged on last year. Look, it's better for the team if they work out, obviously. So you want to give them a chance to work out, but I got to see it on the field, right? You got to see it on the field before you put that kind of belief behind it, especially with Polk, where it was mental last year. And can he get his head right and get back to where he was kind of early last year in camp? I don't think they're writing either of these guys off, though. I know some people have kind of looked at it, and are they going to reset the whole wide receiver room? And we've even talked about it. Is Polk a roster lock a year after being a second-round pick? I don't know about that, but I think they're going to be given their fair shake. I don't think they're just going to be buried at the bottom of the depth chart until the team can get rid of them.
Yeah. I think I still have some belief in Polk. I don't know about Baker. It's just, with the mental side of things, especially in this offense, we'll see. But there's talent there, but we'll see kind of with the off the field stuff with him after how it went last year. But I still have some belief in Polk, but it's easy to say that now, right? Let's get out on the field, let's get the pads on, and we'll see how it looks then. But yeah, if those two guys could give you anything, that would be huge moving forward with the investments you put in them last year and just the need still at that position. So that would be big time if they could give you something and kind of have a bounce back year 2 there. But who else on the team did he talk about that stood out to you? Anyone specific or anything else there?
I mean, he talked about, not on the team, obviously, but he talked about the release of David Andrews and Juwan Bentley and kind of just hitting the reset button there. Didn't address that. Remember, that was right before they had that first free agent introductory press conference, so didn't address it there. Addressed it a little bit, and just another sign like they're moving forward. And I guess along the same lines, not about a player, but he talked about was Felger not being in the Bill Belichick coaching tree. And I
Did
think
you feel vindicated from his answer?
Was that not like word for word what we had talked about on this show when we were doing that?
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So, it is. I think there's going to be more of a reset than people may have thought when he first got hired, and that's been made. Like today, that wasn't breaking news, but it was just kind of the bow on top of that.
I don't think we've been on since the Bentley release, right? Because that was
maybe not.
That
it was
Friday?
On Friday. Yeah, because we've been on. I was going to say if we needed to get to stuff too, we haven't been on since the Diggs presser.
Oh yeah, true. We can touch on that at the end. But speaking of this evolving leadership, like, what were your kind of thoughts there on Juwan Bentley? Because we talked about how he's not really a scheme fit, and that was something Wolf said today along with Felger. Like, they want, specifically talking about changes on defense, he said speed at the linebacker position, and then he started speed and violence as a whole on the team, adding all that.
Yeah.
But so we knew Bentley, that's not really his game, but he was slimming down to make it try to
the violence part
fit.
is, but...
Yeah, violence is. And I think he's kind of been an underrated athlete. He's gotten better in coverage as he goes on. But, you look at the Robert Spillanes, the Christian Ellises, like, different mold of linebacker there. But, and then last year of his deal, no guaranteed money. So there were maybe some signs, but still, like, good player, productive player. He's dealt with it when he's on the field. He's dealt with injuries. But so did that one surprise you at all that they went and did that?
Well, Taylor called it on the crossover, so credit to Taylor in terms of surprises.
Really pushing that.
He was. Yeah, I mean, I was surprised. I thought with his leadership, they'd keep him around, but I guess, like you said, after Andrews probably shouldn't have been. In terms of the comments today, so you mentioned Wolf saying that they want more speed at the linebacker position, but before he was that was part of an answer where he was asked, like, how is the defense changing from last year and previous years? And well, I think he said like slightly, or it's going to be similar, something like that. Like, that was kind of the only change he highlighted, to the point where Felger even asked him if Milton Williams, he forgot Milton Williams' name, so just called him the new guy. He asked
big
him
free agent signing there.
The big free agent signing, that's what it was. He asked him if Milton Williams could two gap, and Elliot Wolf was like, yeah, he probably could. I probably could have played last year. Now, maybe that's just hyping up the signing, but are they just going to run that defensive system with faster linebackers? Because that's basically what Wolf talked about, was that system with more athleticism at the linebacker position. Then he talked about the need for more team speed as a whole across the board, which it's not a secret that that's been a need. You want fast players, draft fast. You want fast guys, draft fast guys, right? So they've been chasing this for a while. Now, fast, and you need guys with talent as well. But I don't know. I actually kind of sat with that answer for a little bit and was looking at it. Maybe this defense isn't going to change as much as we think, because remember, initially the thought was they were going to go more zone heavy like they were in Tennessee, but then they had Carlton Davis, and Vrabel talks about playing cat coverage, and maybe this is just literally the Patriots defense with faster linebackers instead of this totally overhauled system. Even the 4-3 stuff, Wolf talked about they're going to be multiple in the 4-2-5 and things like that.
I was going to say, he specifically said the 4-2-5, which obviously is very popular in the league, the 4-2-5 nickel. And that's felt like one of the big trends or changes that we're going to, right, is the 4 down linemen. And then we've heard, how valuable, Vrabel even pointed out at the combine, how valuable the nickel is. So maybe that's going to be the, of base the formation they run the most and kind of base out of there. And then you have your, 2 athletic linebackers and your 5 DBs, and you get some more speed out on the field there. So that will be interesting if that's how it kind of unfolds there. But he was complimentary of Spillane. Christian Ellis too says, thinks his best ball is ahead of him. Speaking of some of those, back to the offense, speaking of some of those, veterans they brought in, he mentioned Garrett Bradbury, and said Cole Strange is going to stick not necessarily stick, but he's going to have a chance to build off his end of last season at center, which he said was an impressive kind of 2 games there for a guy who didn't really play center and then gets thrown into game action coming off an injury like that. So he wants him to, maintain the 3 interior versatility, which he has. We've seen him at guard, but sounds like Strange could be part of this center competition moving forward still.
Well, Vrabel talked to, and he was asked about Lane Robinson, and just talked about the importance that all those guys on the interior can play multiple positions. I think he called them the middle 3 or something. So that's not surprising. He still fits the most as the center. As I've said, I get Garrett Bradbury has the experience. I do think that's going to be more of an open competition than people realize. Is Garrett Bradbury the starter on day 1 of camp? Yes. I'm writing that lightly in pencil. I'm definitely not using a Sharpie. Or even a magic marker. So I think he's still in the mix there. Vrabel seemed impressed with what he did. The bigger thing to me is left guard, because talking about Lane Robinson having that versatility, that sounds like a guy you want as a backup. And he wasn't asked about City so we didn't get an answer there. But I still think that's maybe a spot that they're looking to add as well. We've talked a lot about, just to kind of go on a tangent here, Brian. All right, you take a tackle, trade up, take a receiver. Take a receiver, trade up, take a tackle. And those have kind of been the 2 clear options. With Diggs signed, if they like some of those guys later on day 2, what about, and look, they can get a starting guard at 38, right? Donovan Jackson. But if they really want to improve this offensive line, tackle at 4, Campbell, Membo, whoever. Tackle at 4, trade up, and you see if you can get Gray Zabel or Tyler Booker. Maybe that's, if we're going to do the trade up thing, maybe that's a scenario we should be talking about a little more than we are. And I know some people aren't going to like that. It's kind of leaving wide receiver out, and it's a hyper focus on one spot on the team. But if there's a spot you're going to hyper focus on, it should be the offensive line. And it does leave you with all rookies on the left side. But if they can play, and especially guys like Zabel and Booker, who are experienced for rookies, maybe there's something there. I don't know that it'd be my favorite outcome. I just think it's one that we really haven't discussed that we probably should be talking about.
And that could, if there is belief internally in Polk and Baker, right? And they really okay, we don't need a wide receiver this high if Travis Hunter's not there, at the top of the draft. Right. Maybe that does open the door to go lineman. And that would be a little disappointing. You draft all these guards over the last 4 years and you can't get one starter there at left guard, but it's kind of the situation they find themselves in right now.
Yeah, it's a double-edged sword. And look, I was saying last year, all right, well, you drafted all these guards. You got to at some point try to make them work. But there is a tipping point where you just hit a sunk cost fallacy, right?
Yeah.
And if they can't play, they can't play. And you still need somebody there. So being like on one hand, I get, all right, between Cole Strange, Layden Robinson, City So, they've invested enough at guard. You had your shots at guard, make it work. I do think there's another side of that that's okay, but if those guys can't work, and I'm not saying that they can't, I'm just saying none of them are a definitive starter. If they want to know, we have 5 definitive starters on the offensive line going into the season, right? We have 5 guys that we think from day 1 of camp, these are going to be our 5, and we don't plan on changing it. We don't plan on really having any true competitions. If they want to do that, I don't know if they do or they don't, but if they want to do that, that would predicate maybe taking a guard high in the draft.
How funny would it be if they got Will Campbell and then Donovan Jackson, and then at some point Will Campbell has to go inside and they bump Donovan Jackson to left tackle?
We could do the same thing with Gray Zabel.
True. Well,
Wyatt Milam too.
The arms are an issue with them. Jackson.
What's Jackson? Is Jackson at the threshold? I actually don't remember his arm.
I thought he checked out. Let me see if I can pull.
Oh, I think you're right. Yeah. Okay. I get what you're saying. Yeah.
Donovan. He has 33.5.
And is that the combine number?
Yes.
All right. So he has 34-inch arms.
And he had a 83 3/4 wingspan too, which is 88th percentile.
I mean, that would be, look, I wouldn't be, if that's ultimately how it turned out, all right, we're going to take Will Campbell to play tackle, Donovan Jackson to play guard, and then you switch them, and they're both really good. fine.
As long as it works. If it works, fine.
you thought Zappy fever was something. The first time Will Campbell lets up like the slightest pressure, there's going to be Donovan Jackson chants all around the stadium.
Oh my gosh. That would be something though, if that's how it worked out. But all right. A few more things to break down, but I want to take one more quick break here from our friends over at Game Time. We all love going to games live, whether it's football, basketball, hockey, anything, and we make sure to get all of our tickets with Game Time. And Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets to see your favorite teams play live even easier because it filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. The Bruins, eight-game losing streak, looking to end that tomorrow. The Washington Capitals are coming to town. I don't think we're going to see history with Alex Ovechkin. He needs 5 goals, although the way the Bruins have been playing defense lately, who knows? Maybe he pots 5 goals. But Ryan Leonard sounds like he's going to make his NHL debut in the Garden tomorrow, BC. So $55 is the cheapest get-in on the Game Time app, or you can fire up a super deal and move down to the lower bowl for $141. And then Red Sox coming to Fenway Friday, I believe, is opening day at Fenway Park. The St. Louis Cardinals are in town, High and Bloom revenge game. So it looks like $84 is the cheapest right now on the Game Time app, or you can move behind home plate, use one of those super deals. Again, $182. Great deal. Hopefully the weather is nice on Friday. I'm not sure if it's going to be rainy. It's been rainy up here all weekend. It's been miserable, but hopefully we get some good baseball weather for opening day there at Fenway. So make sure you head to Game Time for their lowest price guaranteed and other in-app features such as seat views, all-in pricing, and again, Game Time Picks, which makes it easier to save more on your sports, concerts, comedy, theater, any tickets you are looking for. So take the guesswork out of buying those tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code CLNS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code CLNS for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time. All right. Hopefully the Red Sox are scoring runs by opening day as well. But
it'd be nice.
I had one other thing from Vrabel, and it was kind of guys on the current roster and draft. He was asked about running backs and kind of made it seem like they wanted to add a running back, but this was the second time then he went off about Ramondre and kind of came to his defense that he knows he needs to hold on to the football. He can't be fumbling that much, but didn't put all the blame on him. Talked about some of those third or fourth defenders that will come, whether they're unblocked and, kind of knock the ball out, and how that can be a tough position for a running back to be in. So feels like there's still a lot of support and belief in Ramondre Stevenson, but they do maybe want to add a back, but maybe we're not in Ashton Genty range, right? We're more on that second, third, fourth round range of adding a back in this talented class.
Yeah, I still think the ceiling for them is pick 69. One of the Ohio State guys, if they're there, Dylan Sampson, Cam Scatabo. They're going to give Stevenson another chance. And I don't think it's unwarranted. He had fumble issues last year. He had 7 last season. In the previous 3 seasons, he had 7 total. So broken record here. They ran him into the ground. What did you think was going to happen? They ran him into the ground for 3 years. Get somebody who can split carries with them. He'll be more effective with 18 to 20 carries a game than 25 to 30. You just need another back that can do it. I thought last year maybe it was Antonio Gibson. There was some evidence that he could. They just didn't play him enough. But, you want to get somebody maybe who's a little more dynamic. We do this with wide receivers a lot. You don't really do it with running backs, but just for the analogy, chain movers and big play threats at wide receiver. You have Stevenson be your chain mover, and then maybe you go get a guy with a little more burst, again, like a Dylan Sampson. Or you go like a guy like Tutton on day 3 with a little more speed to be that big play threat. You let Ramondre Stevenson deliver the body blows, and then you hope that guy breaks free. That's probably the kind of back that they're in on, and then maybe it's that pass catching back too. I don't think they're going to like hammer the running back position high. I don't know that even if he's there at 38, like I still think Amari and Hampton's probably too rich for them.
Yep. Yeah, but it feels like they do want to add, so that would be a good addition to that room, make that trio there, because he did mention Gibby too wants to be part of that equation. So we'll see where that leads in the draft. But anything else, Vrabel, Wolf, that stood out to you that we didn't get to from any of their appearances with the media today?
I think that's pretty much it. There was a lot. So maybe we'll
lot.
get to more of it. And we'll have more. Thursday's going to be a busy show because we're going to hear from the offensive coaches on Thursday, and we'll have a mock draft. So
first time we talked to Josh since he's been back, and all those guys. Yeah. Oh, one other just more newsy, but 2 joint practices look like they could be on the schedule. Some big ones too. Commanders could be coming to town, so that will be fun. You know, you get Jaden Daniels, and then they're going to Minnesota. So JJ McCarthy, it's on, right? JJ McCarthy versus Patriots defense. That could be a big couple practices for this show here. How those shake out, but we'll cross that bridge when we get there. So,
real quick, do you have any clue? Somebody sent me this, and I'm infatuated with it now. So Dane Brugler just tweeted, "There's a 320-pound difference between the largest prospect and smallest prospect in this year's draft guide." His the beast, right? We know Desmond Watson's 464 pounds. Who's 144 pounds in the draft? That has to be a kicker, right? It's not Tez Johnson. He's like 156.
144.
That's got to be a kicker, right? I'd hope. You can't be going over the middle as a receiver at 144. I don't know if there's another position you could play. You could barely play receiver at 144. Can't be a running back.
No, I'm trying to read the comments to see if anyone.
I was looking; they're not there. I know I shouldn't be doing this during the show, but I got very interested by this.
Everyone's just saying Tez Johnson, but it's not.
It's not. I want it to be Tez Johnson. That'd be funny because you would have Tez Johnson and Desmond Watson, and that's like such a classic catch-22 debate. Who would you rather have? Who Patriots? They're choosing between. They're at pick 238, and you have Tez Johnson, who's lost 10 pounds, or you have Desmond Watson. One of the two. You have final say. The room's split. Who would you take, Brian?
Tez Johnson at 144 pounds. Oh, man.
I mean, he's 156. It's not that different.
Yeah. Give me Des Watson for the vibes.
I'm taking Des Watson.
For the vibes. Who is... Okay.
Big wiggle.
144. Oh, my gosh.
It has to be a kicker.
What's Ben Saul's checking in at these days?
It's more than that. Well, because Ben Saul's like, I think, he's 5'10". 5'10", 185. So he's got 40 pounds on whoever this guy is.
Damn. That's one whole Mason Graham, someone said in the comments.
Yeah, I saw that. Well, I saw somebody, when Des Watson's weight came in, somebody said he was an entire Devonta Smith heavier than Vince Wilfork. Or almost an entire Devonta Smith heavier than Vince Wilfork, whatever it was. But
that's crazy.
We'll have, when the beast comes out, we'll have to see, and we'll see if we can work the. We should try to do a mock draft where we get both Des Watson and whoever this guy is at 144.
And the 144-pound guy.
The best comment in that tweet is somebody goes like, in a very afraid, like they put in like, stars are a very afraid voice, Oklahoma drill time.
We'll have to get creative with one mock draft coming up. We'll maybe bring the wheel back or something, and it'll just be because this is going to be, I think, Thursday. So Thursday we'll be back with 4.0 we are on now, and we have
sounds right.
3 weeks to go here. So we'll have to break out the wheel, bring the wheel back, or get creative for one of these mock drafts. But and hopefully find out who this 144-pound player is by that time. But that's the plan for Thursday. So any last thoughts, or are you good?
I think I'm good.
All right. So we will call it there. Make sure you subscribe to the channel or wherever you get your podcasts. So you can tune in for Mock Draft 4.0 on Thursday. We will let you know the time. Patriots CLNS on Twitter and Patriots Press Pass on YouTube as well. You can follow Barth on Twitter at RealAlexBarth. Head over to 98.5 thesportshub.com for his Patriots offseason coverage there. And you can follow me on Twitter at I am Brian Hines, and head over to patspulpit.com for our coverage there as well. So thanks everyone for tuning in with us tonight, and we will see you guys later this week.